While the Roman Empire crumbled, another civilization was reaching its peak in the jungles of Central America. Europe languished in the Dark Ages, but the Maya were building skyscrapers. For centuries, human voices sounded in this wilderness, and hundreds of cities towered above the trees. The culture produced magnificent art and a complex written language. An understanding of astronomy and mathematics is reflected in a calendar nearly as accurate as our own. But beginning around 800 AD, something happened. One by one, many of the great cities were abandoned. A team of archaeologists has come to the rainforests of Guatemala to study the ancient Maya. Director of the expedition is Vanderbilt University professor Arthur Demarest.
This project has a single research focus. The whole project is trying to address the question of the Maya collapse. Why the Maya civilization collapsed. It's one of the great enigmas of archaeology. Here we're talking about a sophisticated culture, and a century later, in many areas, it's uninhabited rainforest. That is a collapse.
Demarest's project is focused on the final centuries of the civilization, when the city of Tikal was among the greatest of Maya centers. Hieroglyphs from this period tell the story of a group of noblemen who left Tikal around 600 AD. They may have been led by a prince, expelled from the kingdom after losing a battle for the throne. For days, the royal exiles traveled deep into the jungle. About 60 miles from Tikal, in an area called the Patesh Batun, they established a new kingdom, Dos Pilas. Demarest believes that Dos Pilas holds important clues to the collapse of Maya civilization. To get to the remote city, the researchers follow much the same route as the ancient founders. The last leg of the journey is a 4-hour trek through dense rainforest.
I think this is one of the last projects that is really like the old expeditionary archaeology that people think of when they think of Indiana Jones or the expeditions into the jungle. So it's almost embarrassing being a Maya archaeologist because they really fit the stereotype of the lost civilization, their temples overgrown with jungle.
It took more than a year for Demarest's team to build the base camp at Dos Pilas. 13 buildings now house 23 archaeologists and more than 80 workers. Many of the laborers hired to excavate the broken temples are themselves descendants of the ancient Maya. Each morning, teams are dispatched to a dozen separate sites around the ruined city. One of the most significant discoveries so far is an extraordinary stone structure. A stairway covered with hieroglyphic writing.
No, it's not damaged at all. It was great. The stairway, I think, is one of the most important monuments that's been found in the study of Maya history. It is a large, perfectly preserved hieroglyphic text, and on it, it talks about a series of wars, battles, and conquests involving Dos Pilas. It's a tremendous piece of information, and its decipherment, I think, is going to change the way we look at this very critical period in Maya history.
Built by the first ruler of Dos Pilas, the stairway is a sacred monument that celebrates great events in the kingdom's history. It is considered invaluable for the story it tells. But there's something else here that Demarest finds intriguing. At some time, late in the city's history, a stone wall was constructed right on top of the elaborate walkway. Demarest believes the mysterious wall may be an important clue to what happened at Dos Pilas, if he can explain why it was built. As workers remove the stones from the stairs, new hieroglyphs are revealed.
I think you can get it out now.
We'll try and work in here. There's one. That's the one we've got to remove.
There's two, because there's one right up against the glyph.
Okay, there's one.
Steve Houston and David Stewart are the specialists in Maya hieroglyphic decipherment. It's a very rare specialization, and this project has two of the best.
It's really.
This is what we've got to remove.
If we go in from above.
They are
Yeah,
able,
we're gonna have to get
as
more
we
of this.
find monuments, to read them.
Yeah, that's
There you go.
There it is. I think. It just peels right off. Look at that. Okay, let's get some root cutters. What we know so far is that there are a lot of different war events, and they mention a number of different people. All of them are important. They're from different sites, and they tell us about basically that they're not getting along with each other.
The carvings tell the story of the early years of Dos Pilas. Almost as soon as the kingdom was begun, Ruler One set out to make a name for himself by attacking the great city of Tikal. Stones still cover much of the stairway, but when the wall is completely removed, the hieroglyphs may surrender even more of the history of this aggressive kingdom. Already, many things have been learned from the Dos Pilas ruins. This overgrown field was once the heart of a pulsing city. At its height, as many as 10,000 people may have lived in Dos Pilas and the surrounding countryside. Kings and other royalty resided in the great palaces, and the huge central plaza served as a gathering place for elaborate public ceremonies. Here, important events, such as royal births and ascensions to the throne, were celebrated with one of the most sacred of Maya rituals, genital bloodletting. The Maya believed their gods were sustained by the blood of mortals, especially of kings. During the complex ritual, the king bled onto special paper that was then burned. In the rising smoke, the Maya could see their gods and communicate with them. Evidence of the Maya obsession with blood has been found throughout Dos Pilas. These intricately carved tools are thought to be blades used in bloodletting and sacrificial ceremonies. Religious rituals not only took place before huge crowds in the plaza. Smaller ceremonies were held underground, in caves. Demarest's team discovered so many caves beneath Dos Pilas that specialist Jem Brady was brought in to assist in their exploration.
The first time I walked in the cave was an amazing experience, because this is the kind of site that a cave archaeologist dreams about. This is what you're always looking for. This is what you're always hoping to find. When you walk in and you're the first person there for 1,200 years, and it's just the way they left it, everything intact. Okay. Here we are. Watch your head. It's a narrow one.
Oh, look at this.
Isn't this something? Be careful that you can see it's cracked. Yeah, it's...
Remnants of ceremonies performed over 1,000 years ago lie exactly as they were left.
Look at this.
I thought you'd like that.
It's like a museum.
We saved the best for last.
Perfectly preserved.
It's gorgeous. Let me see it. Great. Look at this. Looks like it's been burned on the inside. It's hard to believe it's been there for 1,200 years.
In some cave rituals, freshly made pottery was broken as an homage to gods and dead ancestors. Brady speculates that a small group stood chanting in the darkness. They smashed the pots, one by one, onto the ground. When each vessel broke open, its spirit was released and could pass into the unseen world.
Okay. Alejandro?
But pottery isn't the only discovery here. Evidence of more sinister rituals is also unearthed.
The bones are very interesting in the cave, not because they're unusual. That's quite common to have remains of human beings. What is surprising is the quantity that appears to be showing up. They speak of human sacrifice within caves. It'll probably turn out to be the most individuals ever reported from a Maya cave.
It's thought that human sacrifice was practiced to appease the gods and celebrate victory in battle. Frequently, the victims were the defeated kings and noblemen of neighboring cities.
And not 5.
These royal sacrifices were often recorded on monuments, such as the hieroglyphic stairway. Workers have now cleared away enough of the wall to read a new section of writing.
Look, and there it is. Yeah, this Arthur refers to a kind of altar.
Some of the hieroglyphs here have never been seen before.
And look, it's a
There's
step.
a stairway.
It's a step.
Yeah, that's
It's 2 steps.
That's the
This is
pyramid.
the actual name of this stairway.
Look, Steve. This is the Ye glyph
Yeah,
with Ba.
it's a
Yebal, it's his stairway.
Yeah.
And then somehow the ruler of Tikal is involved.
But here, the important thing is the alliance has got something to do with war against Tikal. And
The
obviously
carvings reveal that the king of Tikal was captured and sacrificed, but his city was not seized.
This is a Yahoo.
During this period, battles were seldom waged to gain territory. Instead, war was a bloody game played by kings.
Saldo, hola. ¿Qué tiene? What you got here? Look at this. It's some kind of a throne.
Look how incredible the sculpture is.
Initially, it seems that Maya warfare was ritualized. Judging from the monuments and the hieroglyphics, it seems that one of the principal purposes of war was to capture a king from another center and to sacrifice him with great fanfare, and then to erect monuments throughout your kingdom bragging about it. Literally, these guys dressed up in silly outfits, archaic costumes with big Paleolithic spears, and went out there and knocked each other around. One of them was captured and brought back and sacrificed. These carryings on of the elite probably didn't affect your average farmer very much, probably didn't affect the landscape very much.
But the very nature of Maya warfare was changing. By the time of Ruler II, Dos Pilas was actually taking over other kingdoms.
¿De dónde salió esto?
Demarest is excavating what he believes to be the tomb of Ruler II, searching for more evidence of the changes in warfare that mark his reign. Royal captives were still sacrificed, but war could now be used to build empires. According to the hieroglyphs, Ruler II died in 726 AD. But the taste for conquest did not die with him. Each Dos Pilas king was more aggressive and expansionistic than the last.
This is Ruler III, and you see him in militaristic garb with warrior costume, an enormous jade necklace that must have weighed about 40 pounds. He has skulls hanging from him, a spear and shield. And here in the text, it describes how the king conquered and defeated the king of Sebal. And down below, you see the king of Sebal naked, bound, humiliated, and tortured. They dragged the poor king of Sebal from center to center, and then he was sacrificed.
Conquest after conquest gives Ruler III control of the entire Passion River, the principal trade artery for much of the Maya world. Dos Pilas is now a sprawling empire, spanning some 1,500 square miles. But in every part of the kingdom, there are signs that warfare is escalating.
An arms race, in a way, started. Attacking centers becomes acceptable, attacking population bases, burning temples. Warfare or changes in the methods of warfare spread by contagion. By the end of the 8th century, the warfare here was endemic. The sites previously dispersed had turned into fortresses and castles.
The Maya begin to crowd into areas where defense is possible. Drastic steps are taken to protect population centers.
This is Punta de Chimino. It's a large peninsula that juts out into the middle of Lake Pateshpatun. And over here, you can see a ditch, what looks today to be just a ditch. It's in fact a moat. It's the largest defensive earthwork that's ever been found in the Maya world.
The moat, once flooded, is now filled with debris from centuries of neglect.
Hey, Claudia, how's it going? You got carbon. A lot of carbon. What else have you got here? Wow, that's a spearhead. These came from here or up?
In this level.
In this level, all of this here?
Yeah.
This is just what you expected. You know, if there was an assault here, you've actually got evidence of a battle maybe 1,000 years ago in this very spot.
Parts of the kingdom are beginning to turn against each other, and the entire empire is on the verge of collapse. The contagion of warfare has become a plague, and the fourth king of Dos Pilas will be the last.
Ruler IV kind of represents the culmination of this expansionistic phase of Dos Pilas history. He was all over the place. That expansionism ended dramatically. Populations that had been conquered by Dos Pilas finally had enough. And ultimately, the kings of Dos Pilas were besieged in their own imperial capital.
With mounting evidence of raging wars, Demarest now believes he can explain the mysterious stone barrier on the Dos Pilas stairway.
At the time of the collapse of the Pateshpatun kingdom, a wall, very crudely constructed wall, stone wall that probably held wooden palisades, like a wall on an American cavalry fort, was thrown up right through the middle of the royal palace over this hieroglyphic stairway to put up a desperate defense. This may be a fossil of that moment in time when the last king that ruled here, Ruler IV, was holding out against his enemies.
In the last days of Ruler IV, the citizens of Dos Pilas frantically tear stones off of the great palaces and monuments to build walls around their embattled city. Peasants who once farmed on the outskirts flee into the walled city, crowding into shacks in the shadow of their temples.
It shows the degree of desperation of this kingdom at that time. It's almost as if you had a population squeezed in, living on the White House lawn, holding out at the very end of the collapse of American civilization. That's what you have here, that moment in time. This stairway here and wall represents in one location the story of the beginning of the greatness of this kingdom. And yet in the same location, the end, the dramatic collapse. Because after this moment in time, after this siege and the death of Ruler IV, this entire site seems to be largely abandoned.
But the people who lived here left their story behind. Not only in hieroglyphs, but also in the blunt message of an abandoned city behind desperate walls. For Demarest, the message has an eerie relevance.
To see a civilization as this one is, with the jungle covering it, and to see the way that it's been reduced to broken rock and soil by the jungle, there's an immediate impact. It reminds us that we can fail, that civilization is a complex phenomena and we can screw up, and the consequences can be totally catastrophic.